you can now do pitch variation and it won't change the timing. See, if you had done a file like this and you change the pitch, it might play here instead. But since you have it starting right where it needs to start, you can change the pitch and all that, and it won't affect the timing. Hey guys, so I got a comment on one of my recent videos asking me how I work in Pro Tools for my sound design work. I use Pro Tools for everything, for games and linear media as well. Right now I'm supervising sound design on a new AAA game title, so all the work I'm doing is in Pro Tools, and I'm going to show you my exact workflow and how I prepare game assets for import into Wwise or Fmod or whatever middleware or audio engine you're using for your games. So let's dive in. First of all, I want to show you our new Discord channel here. We have Become a Sound Designer Discord channel. It's just new. We have about 40 members. Hop on in here if you want to talk to me, ask me questions, talk to the community. If you have any specific questions, you can leave a comment on this video, or you can join this Discord and I'll likely answer much sooner. So please join that. Link is down below. So let's just hop right into this. So I have a Pro Tools session here. I just created it. It is 4824-bit. It's in timecode, 60 FPS. I mean, change that depending on whatever video you're using. So for video games, I usually take a capture of whatever ability or moment I'm trying to design for. Or if you're on an indie team and you don't have access to a build, you can ask engineers or other visual artists for a capture of the animation or of whatever you're trying to cover. And you want to adjust your timecode rate when you create your session, or if you have a blank session like this, you can adjust it right here. This menu is found from setup and then session, or on Apple Command 2 on the numpad. And you can adjust those parameters here. Let's keep it 4824-bit here. So I have this video here that I captured from Dying Light while I was playing it. Now, if we open it in QuickTime, we will see if we hit Command I, it is a wacky resolution size and it is 60 FPS, but what I like to do with all my videos is get them to a standard format. So I like using Apple ProRes. So we're going to open Shutter Encoder here. This is a free program you can get for Macs. There are similar programs for Windows. And let's drag our video on in there. So what I like to do is do Apple ProRes. So you can find it here. 422, which is a very basic, codec. And then you go to advanced features here on the side. And since my session is at 60 FPS, we're going to conform by blending. So this is going to blend frames to make sure the time and the timing is the same to 60 intervals per second, which is frames per second, I believe. I'm going to start this function. And this is just going to quickly give us a nice brand new file that is at the specs that match our session. So again, we're just making an Apple ProRes video, 422, and we're matching the frame rate of our Pro Tools session, which we can see Command 2, numpad, timecode rate 60. Okay. So that's going. So while that's going, we're going to open up Soundminer. And this is going to be our main design thing. I'm not going to do an actual design here. I'm just going to kind of throw some stuff on the page and show you how I set up my session and how I set it up to basically export assets for a game, essentially. Okay. And I believe, yes, this is done. We can hear that little ping. The Soundminer pop-ups are invading us now. Let's get rid of those. And so we can just drag this video on in here. Okay. Let's just do it live. So there's an AVE error, which I'm not quite sure. Audio video engine, perhaps? Do a traditional... So it looks like this is uploading to iCloud for some reason. And that seemed to work. So I dragged it in. It didn't work. I think it had to do with it uploading to iCloud. I'm not sure. Damn you, Apple. But if you hit Shift Option Command I, or you go to File, Import Video, and then I did that and imported it that way. So let's get this so it's not at the very beginning of our session here. Switch to time code really quick. Okay, let's just go to 1 hour straight and Control click, left click our video so it snaps to that time. So we have a little time before here. if you're working on linear media that has a 2-pop, you'll want to match your 2-pop as well. So to do that, you make an audio track. Let's say our 2-pop is 2 seconds before this video. Oops. Say it's 2 seconds before our video. We're going to hit the star on our numpad, -0200. Go back here, and oh, look at that, the start of my session. Convenient. Select one frame, Shift, Control, Option 3. I don't know where this is in the menu, but it's basically to create a frame worth, because we had a frame selected, of 1 kilohertz sine wave, which is a 2-pop. Okay, we don't need that because this is a game asset, hypothetically. And so I did this quick capture here of the weapon swaps because I thought they sounded nice and beefy in the new Dying Light. Just doing a little research here. If you have another monitor, it's good to have this video on it. I have a big widescreen monitor, so I just leave it there. Sometimes I'll make it smaller. Sometimes if my item is just in the center, I'll do this. So it's just poking out in the center here. If you do have it on another monitor, you'll want to do a frame sync test to make sure there's no weird delays happening with your other monitor to make sure you're in sync. And you can look on Google for how to sync video on Pro Tools. Basically, there's a video sync offset here. There's an app on your iPhone or your Android you can get where you take a video and you put a 2-pop on a flash of video, you play it and you film it with your phone, and you can actually see the delay between the time your speakers play the sound and the time the video flashes. So a quick example of that would be if I took a frame of video here, pasted it here, and then I put a 2-pop here and then played this. So yeah, you would record that with your iPhone, playing out of speakers, and you would see how far the offset is between the beep coming out of your speakers and the video coming. Let's say it's half a frame. Go to video sync offset, and you do 2/4 frames or milliseconds if that's better for you. And that'll delay your video to match your monitor so that you see everything in sync. All right, so let's mute this audio here that came with the video. Let's make some tracks. Let's delete this. We don't need a 2-pop. Let's say we're going to do a basic edit here to cover. Let's make 10 stereo tracks and maybe 4 mono tracks. Okay. Let's also make a master stereo track. And let's make a master track that we'll use as our print. So let's name this print. Solo safe this, Command S. Input monitor. We don't have an input assigned. Okay, so my Pro Tools has a lot of weird busing set up, so ignore those. But basically, you just want a good stereo bus to use for this. Let's use bus 9 to 10. Why not? For the purpose of this example, I'll rename them to FXST. It's already used. I am a creature of habit, aren't I? FXST, yes, for the video. So we have all these tracks that we set up going to FXST, yes. And we'll use that same bus for our master track. All right. And then we'll put it for the input for our print track down here. Okay. Put this in input monitoring. And now if we throw a sound on it, let's use that random sound. Now, if we put that down there, we will see it goes through our master and onto our print track. If we want to record on our print track, we press 3 and it will record that sound onto our print track. We don't want to record that sound though, because it's not that good. So it's nice to have a good peak limiter here on this master track, just to protect from clipping and things like that. If you have Waves package, you can use L2. You can also use Avid Pro limiter. That's a favorite of mine. It also shows you the LKFS of what you're using, or of what you're editing. So you have L2 here. We have, Pro limiter here. I actually prefer newfangled Elevate personally. The default setting is quite good. It's a bit of a CPU intensive plugin, so hopefully you have a good Mac Mini or iMac or a good Windows PC if you're running Windows. If you're running Windows Pro Tools. And we have a +2 dB on the limiter gain here. So let's actually pull this master down 2 dB. If you want a bit more aggressive limiting, you can also pull this up. Let's do 6 dB, and you can then pull this master track volume down to 6 dB. So basically, you're subtracting 6 dB from the track volume. You're adding 6 dB before it on the limiter. So this gives you a bit more intense limiting and basically 6 dB of headroom as well. So let's say I want to cover this weapon swap, which is what I was recording for. So let's say we're trying to find that moment in the game. So this is as if we're doing game audio, right? So I have this weapon inventory wheel open here, and we're going to find the first frame of that disappearing, right? So I'm just nudging with plus. I have it set to nudge 1 frame, and I'm on frame grid mode. And right here you see this starts fading, and my character actually moves. You can see this big column shift because my character's lunging back to pull out this weapon. So that first frame, we're going to mark the marker. Okay, so this is going to be our start here of our event. And you pull out this big ass gnarly axe. All right. So let's say I'm not going to do sound design here, but let's say I did axe grab and we do this. Let's say we use this crappy sound for it. Oops, it's a mono sound. Let's bring up our VST rack so that we stereo plugin on there, so it goes stereo. Sorry about this. So let's say we use this as a sound for it. Why not? And let's say we use metal shing. Let's say we use an HRCK sword sound there. Say we processed it, made it sound beautiful. And then let's use a metal clunk. Let's say we use something like this and we pitch it way up. And then we crank L2. Why not? Okay, so we have our beautiful sound design edit here. So we're ready to export for our implementer or for ourselves to implement into Wwise, Fmod, or our game engine. Okay, let's hear what this sounds like just for fun. Perfect. Best axe equip sound ever. Okay, so let's say we want these to be 3 separate layers in our game engine so that it can randomize the pitch and maybe the volume of each of these layers, right? So that with this one edit, we can get maybe 20 different variations of slight pitch changes. And if this sound isn't able to be done in a very repetitive manner in game, that should be fine for an event that can only happen once every 5 seconds or something. Players won't notice that it's repeating very similarly. If it is a sound for a game that happens very often, you would want to, of course, get variations of these sounds and make further edits down the timeline. You can also duplicate the video like so and just continue to make edits underneath. So let's say we want to export these 3 layers as individuals for our game. So let's just duplicate this print track down here. 6, why not? And by the way, this is a method I've developed. I'm sure there's plenty of other ways to do this kind of stuff, but this is how I do it for my games. And this is something I've developed myself, so it's very near and dear to me. So please appreciate what I'm telling you. No, I'm just kidding. But this is my personal method. So I'm sure other people do it too. Other people may do very different things. Anyway, let's continue. So what I like to do is give my implementer or myself, in case I'm not implementing the sound for another week or so, a good preview of the sounds. Let's just do a nice recording of the full sound there. And I'm gonna say it's dying light, gnarly axe, equip, comp. Let's say it's, oops, I can't type around this microphone. V1 comp ref. Okay, so that's our comp there. That shows everything playing together as intended. And I can keep that track on input record. I'm going to take it off record arm, but it's going to stay input. So this is going to be our monitor track. But then when we record, we're going to go on tracks beneath that. So this handle grab sound, it doesn't happen until here. So I have tab to transients on. And what I did there is I just clicked before it and then pressed tab. It tabbed to the biggest transient. See, and it's not the most trustworthy feature. So you want to oftentimes zoom in. Let's say this is our transient here, and then this is fine. Let's say we only want, let's say this one starts here, just for example purposes. Okay, we're going to fade this out here. So this first hand grab, beautiful. We're going to record that as well. We're going to record arm the next track down, unrecord arm this one. We're going to solo this track, record that. Beautiful. Same thing for the next track, record this one. gorgeous. So the important part here now is to note that, let me make our video a bit smaller. So this marker is the beginning of our animation. So in the game engine, when it plays this event, it's going to start the sound at the same frame, hopefully, if everything's going well. And it's going to play these files in some kind of a blend container or something with some randomization properties on them. You see, this marker is the beginning of our event. So we're actually going to switch here to minutes, seconds. And we're going to shift tab to select all the space from where we're selected on this exact marker to the beginning of this file. And we see it's 138 milliseconds right up here. So when we name this, we can name it hand grab 138 ms, right? Oops. Checking that again, 138 milliseconds. So when someone gets this file, they'll know to delay it by 138 milliseconds. Okay, this is going to be sound 2, 0 milliseconds because it starts right at the beginning. And then again, we go down and this is 21 milliseconds. So we're going to go third sound 21 ms. Okay. And actually put a 0 before this 21 just so it's clear. Okay, so now if an implementer gets these files, all they're going to see is basically these file names over here. And it's going to be very clear, okay, they play together. You'll name them, you know, gnarly axe equip v1 hand grab 00 138 milliseconds, etc. They'll get them, they'll be matching versions, and he'll know or she'll know to put them in a blend container or something similar and delay this one by 138 and this one by 21 and this one by 0. And it should play the way it does in our session here. You can also send them this comp just so they have a reference of what the final comped sound should sound like. The reason it's nice to put these millisecond delays here for game implementation is that you can now do pitch variation and it won't change the timing. See, if you had done a file like this and you change the pitch, it might play here instead. But since you have it starting right where it needs to start, you can change the pitch and all that, and it won't affect the timing. Okay. Now, in terms of editing in Pro Tools, I use Soundminer for most of my processing. You'll see I have all these preset editing things here, these preset VST racks. And so I'll do the majority of my processing in there. The only real processing I do in Pro Tools is actually when I have these edit tracks, I have a fab filter on each of them. Okay. Pro Tools is quite great. If you get Pro Tools Ultimate, I believe it's about $30 a month. You can have preview. You can set all your tracks to touch latch here. Okay, and so let's say on this second track here, I want to EQ it. Okay, so I unbypass my EQ. Let's say I want to take out some of that clickiness, right? So I pull down here. Okay, beautiful, perfect. So you can see it's in this touch latch is now green. And the automation is not yet captured, so I can highlight over it, or I can just highlight the region and click this middle button, write automation to selected. Boom, now that automation is secured. Let's say I want to process this track now. Ooh, too shingy for some reason. Let's open up our EQ, unbypass it. I'm hitting Command left click on it. Let's say I want to reduce some high end. Way down. Ooh, now we play it together. I know this sound is terrible. It's just for example purposes of how to use the tools, guys. But let's say I go, oh, I want that high end back. I don't like this EQ I did. Well, this is still green here, which means I didn't commit the preview automation that I created. What I can do is turn off preview mode, turn it back on, just in case I want to write more. And now that automation is gone because I never committed it like I did with this one up here. Okay, so that's a really quick way to write automation. You can do that with any automatable parameters. You want to make sure that you have your automation parameters defaulting to auto enabled, right? You see my plugin automation, all the parameter controls of every plugin I use are defaulting to being automatable. I can show you where that is really quick. Plugin controls default to auto enabled right there. Okay. You can feel free to copy these settings. It's quite good for sound design here. Okay, and then the last thing I do is something I didn't do in my setup here is I actually usually set all my tracks to polyphonic. So this is in case I want to do any pitching on the fly. Let's say, ooh, this sword shing is way too high pitched for this big axe. Well, I can hit option 5 on the numpad, clip elastic properties, option 5 on a Mac. And here I can go, okay, let's bring it down 4 semitones. And right there, boom, it is now much lower, and we can go all the way down to 24. I want to go crazy. Okay. You can also then, if it's in elastic mode, take it off grid here and bring our time stretch here. I just command 2'd to switch to the TCE, time stretch. And you can actually stretch this, which will not change the pitch, but it'll just change the timing. Okay, so let's say if I wanted to go up in pitch and faster, there you go. So that's really what I use Pro Tools for. Is I do the majority of my processing in Soundminer. I use Pro Tools for last minute EQ touch-ups, some pitching, some time stretch stuff, and then just layering and editing in Pro Tools. If you're new to Pro Tools, you might want to get one of those keyboard covers that show you the hotkeys. A few good ones that I love using. A is to cut the top off, or the front off a clip. S is to cut the back off. D is to do a fade in. G is to fade out, and then F is just to create a fade if you highlight a section. You can also just use D for that. You can also drag up here. Use the multi-tool. Basically, the way the multi-tool works is if you're on the top half of a clip, you have the cursor. On the bottom half, you have the hand. So cursor is for selecting, hand is for dragging. And then if you go to the corner, you can do fades. This is a little box icon here. You can also edit your fades if you hit Command F. Change whatever you want about them. I'm trying to think because this stuff is all very second nature-y to me. But yeah, that is basically how I would label my things. So another way to quickly organize your sessions is if you want to be able to come back to them, you can bring up the color palette. I think it's window color palette. Yeah, right here. Let's say make sure this is on clips on tracks, and this will be a pink grab, and then this will be maybe yellow, and then this will be maybe green. So now when I come back, I can easily see, okay, this is the comp. This is matching this. This is matching this. And you can see where things come from. Now, obviously, it's very silly in this very simplistic concept, but when you have 30 things layered on top of each other, it becomes very handy to see the same colors in your summed prints below with what you have in your edit up top. That's mainly it, you guys. That's how I edit things and design for games. The majority of it happens in Soundminer. I have a lot of plugins. You can see all these little presets I have here. And I just had to take this down so that it doesn't reveal things. There's some character names in there from the game. But yeah, and then get libraries. I have 726,000 libraries in here. But yeah, keep saving your money, buy libraries, buy plugins, and keep practicing. Until next time, guys. Thank you.